Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2021 FDOT District 5 Virtual Workshop. This is District 5's fourth Byway Workshop offered in recent years by District 5, and it's our first in almost 2 years. COVID has had an impact on all our lives and in so many areas, in many aspects. And we found, excuse me, other ways to work and play, but somehow we all got through it. We persevered. Adapt or adaptation is a word that's found a commonplace theme in our lives as we've all dealt with this pandemic. Our Byways and the Florida Scenic Highway program have had to adapt because of COVID as well. Digital platforms like Zoom and Microsoft Teams have become common tools that most of us have never heard before or used in the past until the pandemic. So our vision for this workshop today has been adaptation as well. It would have been easy, to probably not have the workshop. It would be understandable. I think people would understand that and delay the workshop until better days were ahead. But it's important to keep the momentum going, share information, and remind ourselves that we're all together in the same boat. And while face-to-face workshops are the perfect opportunity to interact with our fellow Byway community members, we hope that this series of virtual workshops will be informative, educational, fun, and address a broad array of Byway community needs. So we encourage that you still interact with one another on the call today and take advantage of the opportunity to learn from one another. So sitting at home in a computer for 8 hours straight would be overwhelming. So we've developed a series of 2-hour virtual workshop sessions spread over a 5-month period. And we've titled this workshop series, Focus on the 5 E's. And as you can see on the screen, the 5 E's are engage, explore, environment, enhance, and excellence. Each session will look at one of the 5 E's and its relationship to the Byway community. And while the details for each session have yet to be finalized because it's a work in progress, these E's serve as a reminder of the quality of the program and the values our volunteers strive for what they do every day. So we anticipate 2 to 3 presentations per session, and we value your time. So we've tried to keep each session short and varied with their start times. So you'll notice some are during the day at lunchtime, and a couple are in the evening during the dinner time hour. So feel free to have a drink, coffee, eat, snack, and enjoy yourselves. And like all our workshops, we try to keep them informative, value added, and fun. So even virtual workshops has some housekeeping reminders, and ours are very simple. We ask that you be courteous, mute your microphone when the presentations are underway, raise your virtual hand if you have a question, and please make sure to introduce yourself as you speak, so we all know who you are and what part of Florida you are from. All sessions will be recorded and posted on the Central Florida Byways YouTube channel. And let me stop right there. Tia, have we started recording?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So sadly, there are some drawbacks to virtual meetings. While our tradition of morning coffee and bagels, lunch and afternoon dessert are not in the cards this year, and I missed that. We've provided some virtual reminders of what we are all missing and a promise that next year we'll have plenty of the real stuff. Lastly, please enjoy yourselves. It's been a long 18 months. You all have worked hard at being volunteers. We couldn't do any of this without you. So today, again, I can't stress it enough. Have fun and relax, sit back and enjoy yourself. And like the session theme offers, engage. So we're going to roll on and cover the agenda. So we got the introductions completed, and I hope you got everybody. So our first presentation will serve as a refresher of the Florida Scenic Highway program, looking back over 25 years of success and then looking to the future. We are honored today to have Paul Hires from FDOT Central Office with us to be part of this presentation as well. Our second presentation will be the first of a series of technical sessions that we will be offering. With today's presentation, we'll look at the issue of member recruitment and retention, which is something close to dear to my heart because I'm always struggling to help the Byway members with these skill sets. And lastly, from the David Letterman Show, we'll be offering Claudia's top 10 list, and we hope we will entertain you and offering some value-added takeaways with it as well for everybody on the call. And my goal is to be done complete by 1 p.m. So if there's no questions, we will move on to the first E. Let's engage. Remember, today's about having fun. So without further delay, I'm going to go ahead and let Paul Hires take over for a couple of minutes while he makes a few words.
Yeah, thanks, Claudia. Yeah, I wanted to just have an opportunity to talk about the central office and our role and with the program. So just take a few minutes up front. So I am Paul Hires. I manage the production support office. The production support office sits under the design office here in Tallahassee. And under us, we have a number of programs, including the landscape programs. So for many years, Jeff Castor led those programs supported by Ashley Binder. And then Jeff retired in last May of 2020. And when he did so, I became much more engaged in the programs. And then later that year, when Ashley Binder decided to seek other opportunities and left the department, I had to take over the programs. So I've been essentially running them until now, being joined by Dean, who is the new state transportation landscape architect. He's been in the office about 2 weeks now. He's trying to learn the programs and get to know everyone, understand the structure and the commitments of our programs. So I'm glad to have Dean here. I will eventually step back. He will take over these programs. I do plan to stay engaged. I think a lot of this program, particularly the Scenic Highway program, and intend to stay engaged moving forward. But I will be stepping back. Dean will be stepping forward. You'll see a lot more of Dean in the future with the program. We've also been through some transition period, and I'll talk a little bit about it more. I think I get one more slide later on, and I'll talk a little bit about the transition that we've been going through and what our vision is as we move forward with Dean taking over the reins. So I'm really happy to have Dean Stoddard here. He's got a lot of good background that I think is going to fit very well with these programs. So thank you for the opportunity, Claudia.
Thank you, Paul. And welcome, Dean. We're excited to have you as part of the Byway family. Did you want to say a couple of words or not? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it's up to you.
Well, thanks, Claudia. Yeah, that would be putting me on the spot. All right. Yep. Thanks, everybody. I am certainly in the data acquisition mode. I am spending the lion's share of my time on the Florida Scenic Highways. And basically, I'm just trying to pin down where in the state our byways and highways are located. And I'm going through an examination to see exactly where they are. I've traveled many of these already, and I just may not have realized where they were located. So anyway, I'm excited to be here, and I think this is going to be a really cool project to work on.
Excellent. Thank you, Dean. And we're excited to have you as well. So I will introduce myself. I am Claudia Calzaretta. I am the FDOT District 5 Scenic Highways Coordinator. So a little bit of background. District 5, we are located here in DeLand, and we cover 9 counties throughout the Central Florida region. I personally have been with FDOT. It'll be 17 years, June 18th. Not that we need to get exact, but those are the facts. The last 5 have been as the coordinator of the district scenic highway program. I took over the program from Gary Baylog, who was considered affectionately as the godfather of the byways. And Gary had large shoes that I stepped in to fill. This program has allowed me to interact with the local communities and dozens of volunteers throughout the district. And I appreciate each and every one of you. One of the responsibilities that I take most serious as a coordinator is serving as a liaison between the byway community and the DOT staff. I have fielded many questions from many of you all on the call in my time as a coordinator. And while you might not always agree with my responses that I've provided, hopefully they've been timely and professionally offered to you. So enough about District 5. I want to take a step back and offer some history on the Florida State Highway program itself. So the Scenic Highways movement first started at the federal level back in the early 90s. Once established, FHWA encouraged each state in the United States to establish a scenic highway program. Incentives included offering grants and enhanced recognition for unique corridors all over the country. And as you can see from this chronology, DOT established a scenic highway program based on the creation of Florida Statute 335.093. And while it took a couple of years to create program policy and guidance documents, the Pensacola Scenic Bluffs Byway was designated Florida's first scenic highway in early 1998, making them the oldest scenic byway in Florida, 23 years old, or 23 years young. And along the way, the Florida Scenic Highway Program received several awards for program excellence, and its structure and guidance materials have been used by other states interested in establishing their own program. So we are really proud of that. And today, as the program celebrates its 25th year anniversary, we have 27 designated byways in a statewide collection, which includes 1 in each district. I like this timeline a lot. It reflects the people on this very call. And it's because of all of you that there are now 27 designated byways in the state of Florida. Some of y'all have large byway organizations and some of y'all have some small ones, but every volunteer in this program undoubtedly has a passion for their community and the story it tells. While the Florida Scenic Highway Program is a DOT-sponsored program, we all know it to be a grassroots-based effort. Every one of you has come to FDOT to say that your communities and intrinsic resources are significant and exceptional. And I bet you everybody on this call can tell me what the acronym for CHARMS is. And while the program, I'm sorry, my kitty cat is here. While the program's original designation focus may have been on recreation, scenic, and natural resources, many of our byways today now hang their hat on the history, the culture, and the heritage component, which includes here in District 5 to be River of Lakes, Heritage Crossroads, and Scenic Sumter. So before we get any further with this presentation, I need to take a moment to recognize Florida's latest additions to the National Scenic Byways program. When FHWA first established the National Scenic Byways program, they offered a National Scenic Highway level of designation. And to be eligible, a byway had to have previously obtained the state designation and also demonstrate the resources of regional and/or national significance. And you can see, looking on the map here with all the dots, all the national and all-American road scenic byways spread throughout the country, 8 of which are in Florida, and I'm proud to say 5 are in District 5. Sadly, though, FHWA has not added to this list of national scenic byways for several years, but in early 2021, they did announce the results of their most recent nomination cycle with the River of Lakes Heritage Corridor, and 30A Scenic Highway being granted the title of National Scenic Byway. And A1A Scenic and Historic Coastal Byway was upgraded to All-American Road, joining the Florida Keys All-American Road as the only 2 All-American roads in Florida. I'm sorry, I had to add the applause because we are excited about that. Like all of our Florida scenic highways, these byways represent the best of the best in back roads travel within Florida. But selection to the national level places them in very select collection of byways around the country with resources reflecting a national significance. We are very proud of their efforts, and they did deserve that round of applause. So the program today celebrates its 25th anniversary, and like any mature program, it has experienced growing pains and has needed to adjust with time. The first 20 years focused on byway designations. What we see today are byway organizations that remain passionate, but are sometimes challenged organizationally. Volunteerism is at an all-time low across the country, so many of our organizations are very small in size. And many of our volunteers have been at this for 15 to 20 years, and hard work plugging along with the organizations to keep it moving forward. Byway-specific grant opportunities are rare. The FHWA last offered National Scenic Byway grants in 2012, and competition through other means have intensified. And while DOT supports the program, there is limited dedicated funding. What is available is primarily focused on providing a basic level of technical support to the byway community. That's not to say the program will go away though, but it's an indicator that the byway community will need to think strategically for long-term success now more than ever before. Our most successful byway organizations have taken on this challenge head on, thinking outside the box, being creative, and adjusting to this changing landscape. I want to point out these photographs. Oops, excuse me. These photographs here. The top left image is the J.C. Penney Memorial Scenic Highway at a Byway Action Plan meeting. The adjacent picture shows the Indian River Lagoon National Scenic Byway celebrating the northern extension of their byway limits into the town of Oak Hill, which is further north. And the bottom left shows the Florida Keys Scenic Highway accepting a forfeiture check from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. And the last image on the right shows the Scenic Sumter Heritage Byway organization at their byway designation ribbon cutting, and that is at the Dade Battlefield location. Next, I want to showcase several recent case studies of byway creativity and strategicness. The first deals with the issue of volunteerism. So, case study 1, the Scenic Sumter Heritage Byway organization was seeking new volunteers with fresh ideas. So hitting on the topic of recruitment and retention. And to do that, they focused on 2 segments of the local community, youth and seniors. And working in partnership with District 5 FDOT, 2 short 60-second video clips were produced, each targeting one of these segments of the local community. For anyone on this call who has high school students, they know full well that Bright Future scholarships include a community service requirement. The following youth clip focuses on junior, senior high school students in search of these service credits.
Hey girl. Hey, cute shirt. Thanks. So, have you finished your scholarship application yet? Yeah, I just picked up my last volunteer hours this weekend. Cool. So how did you get your hours? Well, I helped the Scenic Sumter Heritage Byway by taking their photos at local events, and then I actually use them to update their social media pages and even their website from time to time. Once a semester, I also picked up hours helping clean some local roadways in the county. It's actually pretty easy work, and I met some awesome new friends along the way. Awesome. How can I do that too? Catch me after school and I'll let you know. See ya. Bye. Hi, I'm Laureen Keene. I've spent the last 6 months of my senior year volunteering for the Scenic Sumter Heritage Byway. At first, my goal was to reach 100 hours for my Bright Future Scholarship application, but it ended up becoming so much more than that. Not only have I learned valuable lessons, I've gained a great appreciation for the Scenic Sumter Heritage Byway and all of its volunteers. As a student, we don't have much time, but take it from me, it's actually the best way to get the hours you need, and it looks great on your college and job applications. Becoming a volunteer is easy. Simply visit the website at sumterbyway.com, and while you're there, be sure to check out the interactive map and other great Byway resources.
So, as noted earlier, building a solid organization with a broad volunteer base is a challenge that many of our byways face. While many have continued to struggle, others like Heritage Crossroads, located in Flagler County, have recognized this challenge and they focused on solutions. The Heritage Crossroads organization has partnered with strong local advocate groups with similar missions. Recently, several leaders from these partner organizations have joined the Heritage Crossroads Board of Directors. Their leadership, community relations, and creativity have brought a breath of fresh air to the Heritage Crossroads Byway organization. A third case study, again, comes from Heritage Crossroads Byway organization, whose mission and organization focus includes engaging youth of the Byway in community to better understand the region's history. The Byway organization established a partnership with Daytona State College and Professor Nancy Duke, who is also the chair of the Byway organization and who has championed the concept of service learning. Dr. Duke's history students are asked to commit time to the community that they're a part of, to get out and about, look around, and to learn. Dr. Duke's students' assignments have included research on historical resources, creating oral histories, developing blogs, and volunteering at community events, cultural and historical. They even wrote a children's book on Byway history, and it's also available in Spanish, and there's the little gal holding the book there. So this partnership between the Byway and the college is a win-win for the local community. The students learn and get school credit, while the Byway gets valuable assistance while helping to raise more community-focused citizens. And it's all around a fantastic strategy Dr. Duke has embraced and brought to reality. The challenges associated with obtaining grant funds to complete projects have gotten greater and greater for the Byway organizations. While developing and winning grants is never ever easy, elimination of the FHWA National Scenic Byway Grant Program in 2012 in the Byway community, losing that funding, losing its only grant program funding, has been really detrimental to the scenic highways. When active, though, the National Scenic Byway Grant Program brought millions into the state of Florida and millions to the Byway community to help them fund things like visitor centers, rehabilitative historic structures. They were able to create educational tools and complete valuable community improvement projects. Since 2012, our byways have had to compete with other community interests, many better suited to win these grants and fund their own projects. Our byway organizations have not been prepared to answer that one simple question that most decision makers are asking them. You know, what is the value of a scenic byway designation? What does it mean once you're designated? Well, to help our byways better respond to this question, DOT District 5 partnered with the River of Lakes Byway organization to investigate the value of a byway designation. We contracted with the University of Florida to help answer it, and I want to briefly summarize the findings here. So the River of Lakes Byway is 156 miles in length, and at its center is the city of DeLand, with many cities that it runs through: DeBary, Sanford, Lake Helen, Oak Hill, Seville, Pearson, and Enterprise, to mention a few. And I do want to mention that the central natural resource of the River of Lakes Heritage Corridor is the St. Johns River. Way back before roads were even built, the St. Johns River was the main highway, and that's how transport was handled. That's how building materials were brought down. That's how people were moved. So it's a very important aspect to the River of Lakes, hence their name. So the focus of the study was to help the River of Lakes Heritage Corridor document the economic impact that their scenic highway designation has on the surrounding communities. So the study lasted about 24 months and included two major components, which was data collection and economic modeling. And as you can see, data collection phase included several types of interviews, including community leaders, on-site surveys, stakeholder focus group meetings, and many digital internet surveys. And the economic modeling was supported by vehicle counts and the use of a standard economic model that is called InPlan. And over the life of this particular project, nearly 800 people were interviewed. If you've been a part of a study like this, you'll realize that 800 surveys, individual surveys, are a very good number. So briefly, the data collection effort found that 1 out of every 4 people interviewed were aware of the River of Lakes Heritage Corridor, and nearly 50% of the people interviewed reported that they learned about the scenic highway from other people. Additionally, many people interviewed specifically mentioned that the byway maps produced by the River of Lakes organization allowed them to get to the byway and navigate around the corridor once they had arrived. The second component of our study was a modeling exercise. The InPlan model is a tool of choice for many economic impact studies and can predict employment, labor income, value, and other economic impact indicators. While all that's important to economic modelers, the bottom line of this modeling effort is that the River of Lakes Heritage Corridor designation has generated jobs, labor income, and tax revenue, which are all good for the local economy. So definitively, a designated scenic byway brings economic development. There is a third component to the community value. While the InPlan model cannot measure community passion, this chart shows that the River of Lakes Heritage Organization donates nearly 2,000 hours a year to their community through the Byway organization. The term that we use for this is social return on investment, or SROI, and it truly documents volunteerism and community passion for a cause. By using the IRS rate of about $24 an hour for volunteer time, SROI can be turned into a dollar and cents value. The River of Lakes study and its companion study of the Scenic Sumter Heritage Byway shows, like I said, definitively that there is value to a byway designation. This program creates jobs, it creates income, and it creates tax revenue for the communities. It's valuable information that every byway in the state should be sharing with their local decision makers. Now, these two studies that I mentioned should not just be used by these two byways. Any byway in the state of Florida can take these studies to show their decision makers in their areas about this, about the value of a designation. Now I'm going to turn it over to Paul to give us a little recap about what's going on.
All right, well, thank you for my second slide. That's good stuff, Claudia. So the first thing that hit me as I got further involved or engaged with the programs over the last year or so, was that we have a Florida Scenic Highway program that we should be extremely proud of. Beginning with its inception back in 1996 as a new program, how many byways we were adding annually through that growth phase. And then it kind of transitioned. In 2016, it became more of a program that was managing and assisting the program. And now we are trying to move that forward, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But just some of the statistics about our byways. We have 27 of them. Just recently, late last year, adding Halifax Heritage to our family of byways. We have 1,500 miles within the state, and we touch 32 counties. That's 32 out of our 67 counties that we have in Florida. So that's half our counties are touched by this program. That's awesome. That's an awesome statistic. We also have, we had one American road, and now we have a second that was added at the beginning of the year, A1A, and then we have 6 national scenic highways, having 2 added earlier this year as well. So that's a total of 8 federal designations, which is quite impressive. So there's 184 national scenic byways out there in other states that have a national designation within 48 states. So if you take the 184, you divide it by 48 states, that's roughly about 4 national designations per state. So we have 8. So I like that. So we are twice the national average. I like the way that sounds. Got twice the national average. So it is a program that we should be extremely proud of. What it needs is more recognition. And really through our transition period, that's something that we're going to be concentrating on. So with the changeover in staff last year, with the restructuring of our resources that are supporting the program, we did go through a transition period. With Dean coming on, we're now able to start moving forward and stabilizing our program a little bit. We're adding some additional resources, and so there's lots of opportunities that we see to move the program forward. Just keep moving that needle forward, and really the focus is really trying to increase the support and our assistance to our byways. The byways are why we have an organization. Is to support those byway organizations. So just some things, I'll list some things that I had written down that just through observation, I feel the program should advance with. The first being an educational campaign, and Claudia was talking about decision makers. We must reach those decision makers to let them know of this awesome program that we have, this Florida Scenic Highway program, and how much it means to our counties. Half of our counties are touched by it. So having that educational, not just on a state and national level, but also with our decision makers within our organizations, making sure they understand the value of the program. I also think there's a need to upgrade signing our route signs so we can more easily find our byways out in the field. It's been some time since we've done an inventory to figure out what is there, what's missing, how that can be improved. I also like the idea of these economic studies. District 5 took it upon themselves to do one with the University of Florida. Awesome job. It really highlights the benefits of having these byways in your communities. We need to do more of those and spread the news, that these things have tremendous value, and so communities should embrace them. Also want to do library of videos, these short little videos that have they're just 1 or 2 minutes that highlight each one of our 27 byways, have a library of them for use. A newsletter, wider distribution of our program documents. We should be proud of it. Like I keep going back to proud of our program, but we should also be producing things of the most highest quality that grab attention, that pop when the public see it, or when we're trying to reach out for that educational campaign. So we should focus on our graphics and our messaging to really grab the attention of folks and have a wider distribution of these documents to spread the word about our program. Of course, you know, the Scenic Highway Advisory Committee, the SHAC, we need to step up and have greater involvement with them and take advantage of their understanding and knowledge of the Scenic Highway program, and we need to step that up a little bit. I've also thought about funding. You know, that is, you know, I think we need an aggressive campaign to seek federal funding with the new program coming out in the future, in assisting the byways to be successful in trying to attract some of that money. Last thing, stepping up the social media campaign. I heard word of mouth, you know, is a big way of spreading spreading the message about byways and the experience of people on those byways. So that word of mouth, stepping up social media, doing a blitz campaign is something I've been thinking about too. So we are in the midst of increasing our resources right now. We're bringing on some more resources to help us accomplish a lot of these things that I just mentioned. But I also want to reach out to the byway organizations and for them to tell us directly what can we do to help support and assist with their byway activities, events, and such. So that is something that you know, just reaching out and getting some more direct feedback on what our statewide program can do to support. I will say that we did put out a rack card. I saw one of your earlier slides, Claudia. You showed that on one of your slides. It's been 5 years since we produced a new rack card. We've changed a little bit of it, the format, the organization of it, just a little bit. And updated it, of course, to include our new byways, our new federal designation, so it's current. In fact, the print, it just showed up, so I just got a call right before this meeting that the package is downstairs to be picked up. So the rack cards are here and ready to be distributed, and we'll be working on that pretty shortly. And so I think that's, you know, and I think that's all the messaging. One last thing, yeah, I got to look at my slide. One last thing is, you know, we're trying to get back to some normalcy. So not only were we going through this transition period last year and into this year as well, but we had COVID to deal with, and that was that kind of hampered many things that we want to do. I think that face-to-face, in-person events and meetings are extremely important. And we had a tradition of having a byway meeting in the DeLand area, Orlando, someplace central, that the byways could come, that our district coordinators could come and share stuff that had occurred for that year. Sort of what this event is doing today, but that face-to-face interaction is extremely important. We've scheduled March 22, 2022. Next spring to have an event. It's going to be in the St. Augustine area to coincide with an event that A1A Scenic Highway is hosting. So it's a national event that they are hosting, and we're going to coincide our meeting with that event. So really looking forward to that. I know it's way out in March, but really looking forward to having an opportunity for our byways and our coordinators to get together again. That's it, Claudia.
Well, that was wonderful, Paul. I feel empowered with your talk, and I hope the byway community does as well. Great things are coming, folks. So this is wonderful. And I also wanted to mention, Paul said, you know, there's 1,500 lane miles in the state of Florida, and I'm going to toot my horn a little bit and let you all know, if you don't realize it, but more than half of those total lane miles are right here in District 5. So today we've talked about the program history, where the program is today, and a bit about the future. And we talked very little about the roads themselves in this presentation. So before I close, I want to give you a little quiz. But don't worry, because it's very simple. Can you name 3 ways to identify you're on the scenic highway? Well, it's so easy because the answer is right in front of you. So experience, when it's miles of canopy roads, highways steeped in history and traditions, that looks out at the waters of the state or carries cyclists up and down the hills of Florida, like Green Mountain, you are on a scenic highway. Or it should be a scenic highway. More often than not, if you're out off the beaten path in a community enjoying the great local meal or community event, chances are you are on a scenic highway. So signage is a big one. As this slide shows, just follow the signs to Florida's unique off the beaten path experiences. You'll know where you are. Digital media is another. Our Scenic Highway program and our byways are very active on social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram. And most byways in the state have a website. Not all, but most do. Social media is the wave of the future. Make sure to take advantage of it. You could also check out digital self-guided tours like the A1A Travel History, Travel Stories app, or the geotourist apps that the River of Lakes, Scenic Sumter, and Green Mountain have to offer. You can go to their website and download the app, and you'll have self-guided tours. And I want to thank you all for all that you do for the Scenic Highway program. Lastly,
Thanks, Claudia.
oh, yes.
Oh, I was just saying thanks to you for all that you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So lastly, when you see all these smiling faces and the adventures like those shown on this slide right here, guarantee that you are on a scenic highway. I especially like Dawn, that's Dawn Carey, wearing the cow outfit. And there's an event that they do there. I like the sign that says "We'll poop for cash," and then there's a dog on the motorcycle, and the A1A Kids Ocean Day. They really do a great job on incorporating the community. That particular poster every year, they get the kids they enter a contest and they come up with digital entries of flyers. And one of them wins. It's everything you guys do is a win-win for the community.
An inventory to figure out what is there, what's missing, how that can be improved. I also like the idea of these economic studies. District 5 took it upon themselves to do one with the University of Florida. Awesome job. It really highlights the benefits of having these byways in your communities. We need to do more of those and spread the news, you know, that these things have tremendous value, and so communities should embrace them. Also want to do library of videos, these short little videos that have they're just 1 or 2 minutes that highlight each one of our 27 byways, have a library of them for use. A newsletter, wider distribution of our program documents. We should be proud of it. Like I keep going back to proud of our program, but we should also be producing things of the most highest quality that grab attention, that pop when the public see it, or when we're trying to reach out for the educational campaign. So we should focus on our graphics and our messaging to really grab the attention of folks and have a wider distribution of these documents to spread the word about our program. Of course, you know, the Scenic Highway Advisory Committee, the SHAC, we need to step up and have greater involvement with them and take advantage of their understanding and knowledge of the Scenic Highway program, and we need to step that up a little bit. I've also thought about funding. You know, that is, I think we need an aggressive campaign to seek federal funding with the new program coming out in the future, in assisting the byways to be successful in trying to attract some of that money. Last thing, stepping up the social media campaign. I heard word of mouth, is a big way of of spreading spreading the message about byways and the experience of people on those byways. So that word of mouth, stepping up social media, doing a blitz campaign is something I've been thinking about too. So we are in the midst of increasing our resources right now. We're bringing on some more resources to help us accomplish a lot of these things that I just mentioned. But I also want to reach out to the Byway organizations and for them to tell us directly what can we do to help support and assist with their Byway activities, events, and such. So that is something that just reaching out and getting some more direct feedback on what our statewide program can do to support. I will say that we did put out a rack card. I saw one of your earlier slides, Claudia. You showed that on one of your slides. It's been 5 years since we produced a new rack card. We've changed a little bit of it, the format, the organization of it, just a little bit, and updated it, of course, to include our new byways, our new federal designation. So it's current. In fact, the print, it just showed up. So I just got a call right before this meeting that the package is downstairs to be picked up. So the rack cards are here and ready to be distributed, and we'll be working on that pretty shortly. And so I think that's, and I think that's all the messaging. One last thing, I got to look at my slide. One last thing is we're trying to get back to some normalcy. So not only were we going through this transition period last year and into this year as well, but we had COVID to deal with, and that was that kind of hampered many things that we want to do. I think that face-to-face, in-person events and meetings are extremely important. And we had a tradition of having a byway meeting in the DeLand area, Orlando, someplace central, that the byways could come, that our district coordinators could come and share stuff that had occurred for that year. Sort of what this event is doing today, but that face-to-face interaction is extremely important. We've scheduled March 22, 2022. Next spring to have an event. It's going to be in the St. Augustine area to coincide with an event that A1A Scenic Highway is hosting. So it's a national event that they are hosting, and we're going to coincide our meeting with that event. So really looking forward to that. I know it's way out in March, but really looking forward to having an opportunity for our byways and our coordinators to get together again. That's it, Claudia.
Well, that was wonderful, Paul. I feel empowered with your talk, and I hope the byway community does as well. Great things are coming, folks. So this is wonderful. And I also wanted to mention, Paul said, there's 1,500 lane miles in the state of Florida, and I'm going to toot my horn a little bit and let you all know, if you don't realize it, but more than half of those total lane miles are right here in District 5. So today we've talked about the program history, where the program is today, and a bit about the future. And we talked very little about the roads themselves in this presentation. So before I close, I want to give you a little quiz. But don't worry, because it's very simple. Can you name 3 ways to identify you're on the scenic highway? Well, it's so easy because the answer is right in front of you. So experience, when it's miles of canopy roads, highways steeped in history and traditions, that looks out at the waters of the state or carries cyclists up and down the hills of Florida like Green Mountain, you are on a scenic highway. Or it should be a scenic highway. More often than not, if you're out off the beaten path in a community enjoying the great local meal or community event, chances are you are on a scenic highway. So signage is a big one. As this slide shows, just follow the signs to Florida's unique off the beaten path experiences. You'll know where you are. Digital media is another. Our Scenic Highway program and our Byways are very active on social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram, and most byways in the state have a website. Not all, but most do. Social media is the wave of the future. Make sure to take advantage of it. You can also check out digital self-guided tours like the A1A Travel History, Travel Stories app, or the geotourist apps that the River of Lakes, Scenic Sumter, and Green Mountain have to offer. You can go to their website and download the app, and you'll have self-guided tours. And I want to thank you all for all that you do for the Scenic Highway program.
So before we start to talk about this presentation, I just wanted to share something with you that when we started pulling the presentation together, it gave me an opportunity to look back on my years of volunteering through various organizations and kind of determine, why did I volunteer for them? Why did I stay? And more importantly, why did I leave? And so we've incorporated some of those thoughts into this presentation today. So let's get started. Oops, that's not working. Great. Oh, there we go. Okay. The Florida Scenic Highway programs use many terms to define what successful is. A stable byway organization. They possess a strong balance of the qualities listed here, and the volunteers are at the very heart of it. One volunteer with a strong vision can cause more change in a community than any government agency or organization. We all understand how important volunteers are to projects and how they can make a difference between success and failure. Whether they volunteer out of passion or are specifically recruited for their technical expertise and leadership qualities, they are contributing players that should be offered opportunities for training and growth. They should be praised and rewarded and never taken for granted. We support many of the byways, and this presentation will touch upon several challenges that we have heard from the byways over the years. The issue of recruitment, retention, and sustainability is a broad topic. I hope to talk through each of these today and introduce several tools that could help build and strengthen your organization. As we just heard Claudia and Paul discuss, the fact that our byway organizations all have very similar challenges. Funding needs, volunteer recruitment, and organizational sustainability are common themes from one byway to the next. While Claudia presented case studies on individual byway organizations' efforts to address these issues, we will take a step back and look at several proven strategies that can help increase a byway's volunteer base and assist with long-term organizational sustainability. If you think about it, for our byway organizations, volunteers and sustainability have the same meaning in many ways. The volunteers are what makes the organization exist. Recently, the team reviewed several of the Byway annual reports, or the BARs. As those of you who have been involved in the preparation of these reports know, there are multiple opportunities to discuss the Byway challenges. It's interesting to note most reported concerns with the need to increase the number of volunteers and long-term organizational sustainability. The Florida Scenic Highway program has offered some great training opportunities over the last several years, and yet the concerns persist. And they are real. Most byways only have a small core number of members. And while volunteers will typically participate in special events, for most byway organizations, leadership is typically just a handful of those passionate individuals. Before we dig into these two issues, let's take a brief quiz. Don't you love a pop quiz? For those of you on the call that represent byway organizations, think carefully about your group and how you function when answering the questions presented in the next several slides. Some of these questions may seem familiar. Several were extracted from the original America's Byway Self-Assessment Questionnaire distributed through the FHWA America Byways many years ago. So let's get started. As a Byway leader, how do you answer these questions for your organization? Your responses should help assess the depth of knowledge you and your community have about your organization and its mission, and help you assess the strength of the building blocks that it is built on. Knowing your organization is the first step towards sustainability. Do you have a plan for your Byway? Do we regularly review our Byway management plan? How about the work plan? Have we communicated our plan with the community? Do we involve our stakeholders in our planning efforts? Have we conducted a strategic planning session? Who visits our Byway? Do we know where our visitors come from? Do the local communities know of our Byway? Do local businesses know about our Byway, and do they know what to do if they get a question about our Byway? Who are our volunteers? Where do we find volunteers? Do we find them or do they find us? Do we know why they volunteer? What's their passion? And most importantly, do we recognize their efforts? Partnering. Do we partner with other local organizations? Do we have informational materials? What about organizational sustainability? Do we have a broad cross-section of citizens and community representatives? Do we communicate frequently with our Byway stakeholders? Do we recognize contributions? Do we have a succession plan? How do we promote ourselves? Do we tell people what we are working on and keep them informed? Do we partner with other stakeholders? Do we have a complete set of educational tools? So how did you do? I doubt any of us can say yes to all these questions, but it is a good way to assess the Byway strengths and areas that might need a little bit more work. Remember, it's easier to recruit and retain volunteers when you have an organized and smooth running organization. No one will ever say that recruiting people is easy, but there are things that can be done to make your Byway look more attractive to those looking to embrace a cause and contribute. You heard Claudia speak to the fact that volunteerism is at an all-time low in this country, but there are still people that want to get involved. As we talk about recruiting new members, keep several things in mind. Does our mission elicit interest? Does it call to others interested in carrying the flag? Do we broadcast our accomplishments so others can hear about us? The previous presentation offered several case studies highlighting organizations thinking outside the box. How do we do more of that? We've heard it said for many years that the Florida Scenic Highway Program is the best kept secret in Florida. It's true at many levels in the program, including at the individual Byway organization level. People like to be part of a winning team. We need to make sure they know our Byway teams are winners. Let's talk for a moment about volunteers and some associated myths. Volunteers are free. Volunteers can perform any task. Unpaid work is unimportant. But the reality is, volunteers are priceless. They are contributing to something great, and it makes them feel good. The work you do for your community is important. Volunteers are rare, and when you find them, you need to hold on to them. I've used several words today, and while the dictionary gives each a different definition, they kind of all mean the same thing from a Byway organization perspective. Succession planning, sustainability, volunteers. At the end of the day, it's finding motivated people to accomplish a mission. So let's talk about volunteers. To see if a lack of volunteers is a recognized issue with our byways, we reviewed the Florida Scenic Highway Program annual reports with specific focus on responses to question number 3 in section 7. And that question is, what are our organization's greatest challenges? We support byways all around the state, but especially here in District 5. The issue of recruitment and retention of volunteers is the #1 challenge that every byway in District 5 has. And how do we know that? Every District 5 annual report submitted says we don't have enough volunteers. Every District 5 work plan submitted says that one of their goals is to recruit more volunteers. The need has been stated. We sit in the same meetings and see the sign-in sheets with the same 3 to 5 names on them each month. Rarely are there any new faces. An organization's sustainability, I knew I was going to mess that up today, is heavily dependent on where you will find your volunteers. For the next several minutes, we are going to talk about volunteer recruitment, volunteer retention, and offer some observations and answers to the challenge of where are people, how do I recruit them, how do I retain them? As you heard from Claudia, the theme for today is engage. How do we engage new volunteers, and how do we keep them engaged? To start, you need to ask, what kind of volunteers do we really need? Do we need volunteers to carry forward the mission and achieve your goals, or do you need volunteers to track membership dues and table events? Or do you need both? Most byways say both. Each one may have a different recruitment strategy, but both types are equally important to the long-term sustainability. As we've heard from many byway organizations, everyone needs more volunteers. But when we ask what for, in many cases, there is silence. Make sure you have a plan before you start to recruit volunteers. Ask yourself the questions presented here. This list has come to be known as the 5 W's of recruitment. We're going to quickly look at each one of these. What do we want them to do? We've touched upon this several times already, but it is important. Identify your need. Is it a leadership role? Is it for special events? For special projects? You want to match needs with your available skill sets. Where do we use them? Based on what we need them to do, how do you fit your recruit into the organization? That's where a position description can come in handy. You need a clear understanding of what you're recruiting for. And they need to know what level of commitment you are looking for. What are their strengths and skills? What do they want to do? It's important to align their passion and strength with the right position. Why do they want to join us, and what do they get out of it? Because we are passionate about our byway, and that's contagious. Contributing to something great that helps the community. The Adopt a Highway cleanup, which is the slide that I just showed you previously, helps maintain a litter-free and beautiful corridor. Training and learning, teaming recruits with seasoned members helps to establish a camaraderie that can provide new skills for the recruit for the future. For example, partner a new recruit with a seasoned grant writer to teach them how the process of grant writing works. The recruit may obtain an expertise that they never had before and could be valuable to your organization in the future. Feel good about learning something new and about doing something positive. Giving back to the community feels good and gives everyone a sense of accomplishment. It provides an opportunity to meet others with similar interests. This group, shown in this slide, wants to preserve the history of the JCPenney Farms community. Community service. High school students looking to fulfill their community service hours, the Bright Futures. Local community colleges are also doing service learning projects with their students. The Sumter Byway has multiple student volunteers who help with events and programs as part of their community service hours. Partnering opportunities, partnering with organizations or agencies that have aligned missions helps your organization gain more exposure to opportunities and provides good networking opportunities for volunteers. Claudia spoke about the River of Lakes Economic Study. Well, the River of Lakes has partnered with West Volusia Tourism Bureau. The Bureau just last week presented the economic study to the DeLand Rotary. Not only was the presentation well received, but it generated interest from the Rotary in volunteering for the River of Lakes. What are the recruitment tools? Looking at this list, there are several bullets that jump out. Today, social media is the way information travels. Therefore, it has to be part of your Byway recruitment plan. How many people on this call could recite their mission statement while riding in an elevator with a potential volunteer or recruit? Show of hands, can anybody do that? Everybody knows somebody. All you've got to do is ask. In many ways, this is similar to the previous W. Why would they want to join us? People want to be part of the success. They want to feel good about what they do. In many cases, they want to meet others and they want to feel valued and needed. From an organization perspective, we want to offer opportunities to be part of a team. We want to also recognize and reward them for volunteering. Volunteer of the Year awards, certificates of appreciation, recognition in newsletters, thank you cards, they're all simple but valuable recognition tools. Recruitment. There are classical ways to recruit people, and there are some that have a different spin on recruitment. Facebook and websites are great recruitment tools. A website is a dynamic tool that can be used for both promoting your organization to the visitor, as well as providing a space where volunteers can learn more about your Byway, its mission, and any upcoming events or projects. Facebook can also be used for promoting projects and events, as well as recruiting volunteers. Does your Facebook page have a link for volunteers? Is there an I want to volunteer button, or there's a link to find more information about volunteering opportunities? Also, your Facebook page must show regular activity, energy, passion, and happy faces. Email blasts can be used for announcements of your meetings and newsletters. Newsletters are a great tool to keep your membership engaged. Newsletters can also serve as a tool to recruit volunteers to your organization. Email blast services such as Constant Contact or MailChimp, which is a free service, are utilized to send organizational newsletters, promotions, and invitations to events. And then there's also Nextdoor. If you're not familiar with it, Nextdoor is a neighborhood social media site. It uses an address verification process and places you in a digital neighborhood. The advantages are it's local. If you talk to the neighbors that live on your Byway, you can gather interest and potential volunteers of those who use and enjoy the Byway. A vested interest is always a good way to reach a potential volunteer. You could also create a group within a Nextdoor neighborhood that focuses on special interests. So a Byway group might be something that could be utilized. Like any social media, there are disadvantages. The one big disadvantage to Nextdoor is that you need to have a volunteer living in one of the communities that is a Nextdoor member. Several groups have explored Nextdoor, and it's guaranteed that you are reaching your neighbors. Ormond Scenic Loop and Trail uses Nextdoor, and recently they were able to recruit 2 board members, including a social media person, which allowed them to create and fill that role. Align with agencies and organizations that can provide needed support. Heritage Crossroads partnership with Flagler Historical Society and bus tours. The Byway provides the trip itineraries, and the Flagler Historical Society leads the tours. In addition to these types of organizations, many agencies that were previously used by one of our local byways is partnering with the Department of Elder Affairs through the Senior Community Service Employment Program. This program provides on-the-job training to Americans over the age of 55 who are underemployed and meet certain income levels. Many local governments offer volunteer service groups that match available personnel with local needs. Most require a volunteer to complete a volunteer application. A volunteer application is a good tool to gather a volunteer's strengths and interests to assist in placing them in a role that best fits them and the byway. Many byways have worked to attract the next generation in their community to engage in byway projects. As most of you know, Bright Futures is focused on junior and seniors in high school. While the eligibility requirements seem to vary by county, several byways have taken advantage of this program to get students Bright Future qualifying credits while getting byway projects completed. It's a win-win. Contacting the high school guidance office is typically the place to start. Daytona State College embraces the concept of service learning, which allows students to learn and experience at the same time. Heritage Crossroads has used this service learning program to help with byway projects. Semester by semester, students are assigned value-added projects through their professor. This gets them out into the community where they work with local experts to complete assignments that get them school credit while completing projects that support the byway mission. While each option requires planning and close coordination, both have helped bring resources to undermanned byway organizations. The idea of reaching out to students is that they volunteer because they need to, but they come back because they want to. So make it fun and rewarding. Several of our byways have established close relationships with local and regional partners. Partners like AARP Foundation help provide volunteers with partners like the Flagler Historical Society have a similar mission, and the byway organization that results in a team of volunteers to accomplish priority community projects. Always have a list of needs in your back pocket in case a potential recruit is interested in learning more about your organization's needs. You need visibility, a list of accomplishment, passionate mission, and passionate membership. All are tools to increase interest. Let's transition from general volunteer needs to that special breed of volunteer, those leaders. We have observed over the years that the byway leaders hold these positions long-term. They don't have an opportunity to take time off or step down to a less demanding volunteer role. That's where a succession plan can help, and it's one of the most important documents an organization can have. As a plan for the future, it helps guide board member recruitment, training, and membership development. It can be an integral part of ensuring long-term sustainability. Developing a succession plan doesn't need to be detailed and take up huge amounts of time. As part of the plan development, you should ask, what type of skills do we need to implement our mission? How do we create a diverse board capable of implementing our mission? Do we have the needed skills internally, or do we need to recruit? Do we have position descriptions? Are they written out? What is the transition plan for getting the new board member exposure to these desirable skills? Who's out there? Who do we really want? Do we have any existing relationships? Do they show a passion for what we do? Do our recruits know others that could be interested in participating also? Based on the answers to these questions, a plan can come together quickly, although identifying and grooming future leaders is a process. Make sure to team them with current leaders to learn how things get accomplished now. Set a schedule and challenge, but don't overwhelm. Continue to recruit new volunteers to keep the momentum and ideas flowing and to help avoid burnout of your existing volunteers. If you want to build a ship, don't drum up people to collect wood, and don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. Engage your volunteers. Some volunteers have big personalities and you always know what they are thinking, while others are more reserved. So reach out to them and engage them in the conversation and decision making. Seek feedback from volunteers at the beginning and regularly thereafter. Get their input on altering job descriptions, modifying procedures, improving communication, and goal setting. Does it seem like only a small amount of people are doing all the work in your organization? Find out why. Shift volunteers to different jobs. This encourages shared knowledge throughout the group of volunteers, so multiple volunteers know how to do the same task. Allowing these shifts and perspectives encourages fresh ideas. Keep your volunteers engaged with challenging opportunities for them. Track the progress of your volunteers, either through tracking their hours or recording progress on a project or event. Maybe this is a student volunteer who would benefit from having an appreciation letter sent from your organization to the head of their school volunteer program or their teacher. Recognize, praise, reward. Positive reinforcement goes a long way. Show your appreciation for your volunteers publicly and often. Recognition is critical to any volunteer-based organization. Develop a press release to document when a volunteer has achieved 100 hours of volunteer service. Nominate them for community awards. Present a certificate of appreciation to them at organizational meetings. Any tribute that conveys how much their effort means to your Byway organization can go a very long way. FDOT has the Gary Bailoff Award that recognizes an outstanding volunteer of the year. Lastly, how do we keep the volunteers happy? The experts agree that a happy volunteer is a long-term volunteer. Several case studies have shown these 9 methods can help keep volunteers engaged. Keeping volunteers engaged is a critical cornerstone of a healthy volunteer retention plan. The goal of retention is to reduce turnover, and to reduce turnover, you'll need insight into what factors lead to a volunteer resigning, particularly your newer volunteers. Training and mentoring provides volunteers with the knowledge and resources to complete work independently and effectively, and it also empowers them to have a measurable impact in your community. Volunteer retention relies on regular strategic communication. Engaged volunteers like to feel passionate about a cause and beneficial to the cause. One of the best ways to keep volunteers interested in your organization is to match them with opportunities they'll love. Remember, positive experience yields greater retention. Like you, volunteers lead busy lives, and one of the primary reasons volunteers quit is because they can no longer fit volunteering into their schedule. But the solution is simple. Let's be flexible. Offering volunteers the opportunity to enrich their experience can help boost volunteer engagement and retention. Successful organizations have found creative ways to show volunteers that they are valued. From efficient communication to tracking volunteer data, your organization needs time-saving technology to recruit volunteers effectively. In summary, look critically at your organization, identify your strengths and areas where you need to work on. Plan accordingly, identify your volunteer needs, and consider a succession plan. And remember, happy and engaged volunteers are long-term volunteers. While this slide reflects what we've talked about today, it really comes down to keeping your eyes open for individuals that can carry on the organization's mission and stay engaged. Questions?
Wow, that was a great presentation, Susan.
Thank you, Claudia.
That was very, I feel invigorated. I feel like running out there and doing these things. And I hope the Byway community does as well. We will get this presentation out to everybody on the call today. I think it's valuable. It's probably more valuable than my presentation, which really, you know, was an update. These are getting back to brass tacks. This is getting back to basics, and we can always have a reminder of what it takes to get back to how he's got started. So I thank you for that, Susan. It was wonderful. Yes. So Susan pointed out a lot of basics that it's always good to get back to and relook at it and see, you know, how your organization aligns with your original statement and get back on track in some instances. A lot of recruitment strategies. Every byway in District 5, and I suspect in the state, struggles with recruitment and retention. So these opportunities that Susan shared with y'all today are proven to work. You know, it just takes action to make it, you know, to implement it, to make it work. But they do work. So we will share the presentation with you.
So Claudia, I started off the presentation talking about my own personal experiences and reflecting back on them. And I think it's really important to note that the reason that I have left the organizations that I volunteered for is basically that lack of leadership or organized leadership. And it's not that leader's fault, it's they didn't have enough help. So delegate wherever possible and be as organized as you can and just have fun.
Yes, and you know, you bring a good point, because years ago, I volunteered for Habitat for Humanity, and I have fed the homeless at the Salvation Army, and I did that for a number of years. And I remember the last time I did it was because, and this goes to organization, it was so chaotic that, you know, I was actually walking around looking for things to do because it was not organized. And so I packed up my kids and we left. So I was trying to share, and I did share moments of giving back with my children. And they still remember it. They're young adults now. But yeah, if you're not organized, people do leave. So Della has a specific question for Susan. Della, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask.
Thank you. And it was a really interesting presentation. I have a question. What sort of ideas or suggestions can you help us with for members that we are seeing that are reaching burnout or leaders that are reaching burnout? How do we bring them back from that brink before it's too late?
Well, I think the one thing that you need to do is allow them to take a break and let them step down into a less stressful volunteer role. That's very difficult to do because they're the only one who knows where everything is and where everything's kept. So having a Byway manual that has everything in it can really help to have someone else step up and help out and delegate as much as possible.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Assign roles to people, and when they come back the following month, hold their feet to the fire and expect them to give an update on what their assignments were. That was again a fabulous presentation, and we will get that out to the group. So for the last session is Claudia's top 10 list, David Letterman style. In our top 10 list of best practices in the category of citizen activists, best practices. So before you start, you want to make sure that you can clearly define the issue. Know the what, why, and who of an issue. Something that I've always, one of Claudia's quotes that I always say is and I didn't come up with this, it's a quote from American writer and editor Dorothea Brand, but here it goes. A problem clearly stated is a problem half solved. If you really think about that, it's the absolute truth. So I'm going to say it again. A problem clearly stated is a problem half solved. Number 9, what is your end goal? Goal setting is the first step towards successful goal achievement. In fact, goals are more than just a starting point. They are the anchor for the vision. When you set SMART goals, it just gives you clarity on your end vision, which in turn ensures that you are channeling your time, energy, and efforts properly into your desired output. Number 8. Large numbers of voices make more noise than small groups. We've all heard that and we know it's true. Groups command attention. Any successful relationship, whether a personal or business relationship, is unique to every pair of individuals and it evolves over time. It starts out tentative, fragile, full of unfulfilled possibilities and expectations, but it grows stronger with experience and familiarity. It matures into trust and commitment. So you want to recruit like-minded individuals. Number 7, craft a message that is crystal clear. A crystal clear message works best always. A good one-liner or elevator speech gives enough information to get people interested and creates a desire to know more. This is as true on online communications as it is for in-person meetings. Your one-liner is your core message. When I started as the coordinator nearly 5 years ago, or just over 5 years ago, I struggled to define what the program is in 12 words or less. I didn't quite make it, it's 13, but this is what I came up with. Florida Scenic Highways are grassroots organizations promoting tourism, economic development, and resource preservation. That's it. And that's what you all should do. You all should define and tune in and create your elevator speech and try to do it in 12 words or less. Number 6, use social media. Ask people to take an action step. I don't know why people are afraid to ask people to take an action step, but if you go on social media, you will see it time and time again. Please like us, please share us. If there's anything that we've learned over the last year is that social media gets the word out. Ask people to take an action step or call to action. Ask them to share your post. They'll do it. Call to action, action word, read, download, call, contact. Use those words and people will follow. Create an urgency like today, now, in the next 24 hours, please share us. Tell them what is in it for them. Give them a sense of reward, a sense of community, friendship, camaraderie. You know, people will do it. Just ask them, trust me on this, do it. Number 5 on Claudia's top 10 list, create and use a website. You have absolute control of your message. Now, depending on your social media page, some of you have a page where people can comment, and some of you have where they cannot comment. But here on the website, you have absolute control on your message. You have a platform for more detailed information. You can post maps, brochures, your bars, your work plans. You have 100% control over the content. On your social media pages, you can ask people to go to your website and share. Put on there that you accept donations. You can put a donation box on your website. Again, share it on social media. It builds credibility when you have a website. Make sure your message is crystal clear when people do go to your website. Don't get them confused about what your mission is. So number 4 on Claudia's top 10 list is use print and broadcast media. Print and broadcast media are classic ways of getting your message across. They perform very important functions in today's world. They both supply us with information, which range from the latest news updates to the latest projects the Byway is working on. Print media and broadcast media supply us with information that we would not otherwise have access to. For example, print media is a news organization such as a newspaper and magazines that produce news and stories that are meant to be read. You know, you can contact a reporter to highlight your byway in a newspaper, and you can share that on social media. You could also write an opinion piece and share it with a local newspaper and have that highlighted. Broadcast media, on the other hand, is a news organization that supplies people with news in a format that can be heard or viewed. An example of broadcast media would be radio and television. There are local news stations that are always looking for content. You could reach out. Number 3 on Claudia's top 10 list is communicate with decision makers. You know, city managers, commissioners, people in the community. And you could do that through personal emails, personal phone calls. You can schedule in-person meetings. Now, I'm going to throw out a word of caution, though. Don't bombard them with emails. Be very strategic and purposeful when you ask for a meeting. Have your ducks in a row when you do meet with them. Bring with you your work plan, your annual reports. Let them know who you are. Practice your elevator speech. Go in and ask for specific help. You know, in other words, if you make a meeting with a local congressman, commissioner, city manager, go in there and introduce what the Byway is, but also go in and ask for specific help on a specific project. That's how you can build a relationship with them. Let them know who you are. Number 2 on Claudia's top 10 list is perseverance. I know everybody on this call has this coming out of their veins. because you're still around. Perseverance, keep going. Nothing is easy. You all know it, but you keep going over the long haul. Be prepared to be discouraged, but you still move forward. Win battles, but do so graciously. Number 1 on Claudia's top 10 list is relationships. You know it, and I know it. It's the most important factor of everything that we are professionally, personally, everything you try to get somebody to do. It's all about relationship. Establish positive relationships with your elected officials, your neighbors, everybody you come into contact with. It's the number 1 on the list of best practices in the category of citizen activist. So engage with them on a regular basis, engage by attending district meetings, let them know who you are, make presentations, offer to help them with their initiatives when they align with yours, and never burn bridges. So that was David Letterman's top 10 list. I hope you enjoyed it.